So the Israeli occupation forces, there's a video of them where they arrested a bunch of Palestinian children. Let me play it to you. So this is from March 12th, right? From Joshua Zitzer says, on Wednesday, Palestinian children aged 8 to 13 were manhandled by the Israeli occupation forces and detained by Israeli police near Habat Maun, an outpost in the West Bank.
زانين بقلال متنحلين محفات معون بقلال متنحلين محفات معون راك يا لدين ما زين تتفرشوا ترى متبيش ترى متبيش ترى متبيش يا اخ عطشرين يا نديم بقلال كتفوك عوب يا ابو صعيم حيالين ابو صعيم عيال شوف يا ابو شاع אתם פושעים, אתם עושים עבודת פשע. בגלל מתנחלים מחפת מעון.
بس يجي ابوه بس يجي ابوه شوفوا يجي ابوه هو اجا انا ما بدي انا خاشي
لا مسبارش لا
I mean, I'm sorry about the audio, the wind, but what is that? Like, what is that? I'm speechless. I'm really speechless. Like they just, I'm disgusted by it. But then when I think of the other crimes the Israelis have done, I'm not surprised, right? They've done far worse. I just last week, I saw this video from the Right to Return marches where you had a Palestinian woman. She's just holding a flag and they just shot her. And again, they shot tons of people, right? They were purposely shooting people in the knees, shooting journalists, shooting medics. So, I mean, as atrocious as this is, when I remember the war crimes, the genocide, the ethnic cleansing, like there's nothing where they give the Palestinians any kind of mercy, right? Nothing. Even the kids, right? Disgusting. And they even, you know how Israel, they constantly call themselves, oh, we're the only democracy in the Middle East, right? All these Arabs, they're savages. No, we are the only civilized people. We are the chosen ones. You know, we are the only democracy. They even break their own laws. So by law, they're not allowed to arrest anyone under the age of 12. What is this? These kids are aged 8 to 13. Why are you manhandling a bunch of kids? Like, how much of a fucking coward do you have to be to do that? It's a kid. It's a child. You're threatened by a child? So look at this. This article is from Business Insider. So Havat Maun, again, I pretty sure that's like they renamed it from what it originally was. But they're saying Havat Maun is one of many settler outposts in the West Bank, considered illegal by international law, that is not authorized by the Israeli government. There have been several incidents in the area of Palestinian children being harassed by Israeli settlers while on their way to school. Armed military personnel reportedly took the children into the settlement and questioned them about their alleged attempted theft, according to the children's lawyer. Okay, so do you know what they're accusing them of? These settlers, these settlers, which are, I mean, they have no right to be there, as we just read. They accused the kids of trying to steal parrots. Motherfucker, you stole their land. You have no right to be there. Who the fuck are you? You are stealing their land, their fucking country. You're whining about some parrots? I don't even know if this story is true. I think it's bullshit. I think it's complete bullshit. Right? So the lawyer says that they were taken to the Havat Mound illegal outpost where the soldiers tried to get a confession from them, which is illegal. Both the Israeli police and Israeli Defense Forces, Israeli occupation forces, dispute this claim and instead insist that the young boys were immediately taken to a police station. Oh yeah, I totally believe you after that performance. So they say the boys were detained for several hours. Okay, their parents, despite multiple attempts, were unable to contact or locate their children. And yeah, I absolutely believe that because if you remember Iyad Hala, who was 32 years old, he had autism, he was murdered last year, end of May, by Israeli border police. They shot him in Jerusalem. They executed him, right? They chased him and they executed him at point blank range. Straight up execution. They knew that he's autistic, that he was unarmed, and they just executed him. They wouldn't let the family have the body. They wouldn't let the family actually see the body for like, I think, a day or two, right? So that's they wouldn't let his parents see their dead son's body. So the fact that they wouldn't let the parents actually contact the kids, I mean, that's, you know, I'm not surprised at all. Right? So once again, as I told you, the age of criminal responsibility in Israel is 12. 3 of the boys are aged between 8 and 11. The 2 older boys are 12 and 13 and are old enough to be charged with a crime. Again, what is this charging them with a crime? Like, you have no right to be there. It's not your land. It's not your land. You're illegally occupying it. Your laws are fucking null and void. Your laws are null and void. They mean nothing. And even these laws that they have fabricated, they violate them, right? Because again, it's an apartheid system. For Palestinians, yeah, they break whatever rules they have. It doesn't matter. So this is nothing new, huh? I want to show you something over here. So the organization that posted this video of the boys being arrested, this is their website, Beit Salam, and these are the last statistics on Palestinian minors in the custody of Israeli security forces. Let's call it what it is, Israeli occupation forces. So this last update's from January 2021, but look what they say here. Since October 2020, the Israeli prison services has stopped providing Beit Salam with figures in response to requests under the Freedom of Information Law, right? So the last figures they have at the end of September 2020, I'm going to zoom in for you so you can read that with me. 157 Palestinian minors were held in Israeli prisons as security detainees and prisoners, at least 2 of whom were held in administrative detention. Do you remember what administrative detention is? We looked at that with our previous segments where they can just hold you indefinitely, basically, right? They just renew it. I think, what was it, every 60 days they can renew it, and they can just hold you indefinitely. So you have at least 2 kids that are being held indefinitely. Wow. Here's another great line. Another 2 Palestinian minors were held in Israel prison service facilities for being in Israel illegally. What? How are they on their own land illegally? What does that even mean? They're in Palestine. It's theirs. What? I can't. I mean, that sentence in of itself is so absurd. You have to laugh when you read it. They're in their own country illegally? Really? Not the settlers? The IPS considers these minors both detainees and prisoners, basically criminal offenders. So, I mean, this is very serious, right? They're imprisoning children, not for civil offenses or something like that. No, for criminal offenses, right? Now, look at the statistics, okay? So back in 2008, they had, look at that, over 300 minors between the ages of 16 and 18. Insane. And I mean, one is too many. One is too many. But look at this. So the last figures we have, they've got around 150 Palestinian children being detained that are between the ages of 16 and 18. And then you have, I'd say that's around 25 minors that are under 16. And then that's the number in administrative detention. So as we said, it's 2 as far as we know. I mean, this is obscene. And you look at the sentences here. I'm struggling to understand. This is probably the combined number of years. I'm not sure if that's what it's supposed to mean, but it's just unbelievable. And what is astonishing is that even despite the so-called marvel, right? Israel, they're so proud of how they've been able to vaccinate most of their population without counting the Palestinians, of course, right? Because for them, Palestinians are second-class human beings. So they don't count them. And despite that, right, what did they do? They just stuffed all these kids in jail during the pandemic, right? They refused to release them. So, I mean, my point here is that for a country that has made such an effort to be the number one country, right, in terms of population, percentage of their population vaccinated. And again, it's not a country, is it? But they've strived to get to that goal, right? You would think they would have some mercy on the kids, right? That they would let them out of prison because they shouldn't be there in the first place. They're not violent criminals. There's a pandemic. No, they don't care. So this is from UNICEF, right? And this is from last year already. But it's still the case, as you can clearly see from the latest figures. They're not releasing any of them. So in light of the COVID-19 crisis, UN was calling for the immediate release of all children in detention, including Palestinian children, right? And they, of course, don't give a shit. They don't give a crap. And what's heartbreaking is that, I saw this video the other day of this child. I don't know how old he was. I'm guessing maybe 14, 13, I don't know, but a Palestinian kid. And, he's like kissing his mom. And then there are all these guards around him. And he just, he kisses his mom goodbye and then just walks into the jail I mean, it's heartbreaking. Like, he knows he's going to be in there for a long time. And you have these grunts just standing around. I mean, do these people not have a conscience? Like, the guy's a fucking kid. What the fuck are you doing? And, another thing that I would say is that I don't know any country that sends the army to arrest people that are stealing parrots, allegedly, especially children. Have you ever seen that? Have you ever seen that? Like, just seriously for 1 second, if I told you that, or let's say not you guys, because you guys, you're switched on. But, if you told the average person who's, they don't know anything except mainstream media, right? They only know what the mainstream media tells them. If you went up to them and you told them, for example, the army in North Korea, right? They're going and arresting children for stealing parrots. They would just believe that because they've been programmed to believe that shit, right? Like it's the most absurd thing. It's the most absurd thing. But when you say that about Israel, which is true, like we have these figures, these are official figures. I don't know if they're understated or not, but even if you cut that in half, or even one is wrong, you're not allowed to say that, of course, right? Why? Because it's in the name of Israel's security, right? Israel's security becomes before Palestinian human rights, even kids. Apparently, Palestinians disturbing illegal settlers. This is so bad that they have to send a fucking army, right? And then of course people will say, well, no, that's not true. They're already there for security reasons. Oh, so okay, you admit that it's an illegal occupation then? Yes, when you have the army illegally occupying the West Bank, yeah, it's an illegal occupation. Oh, there's no way you can look at this and justify any of this shit as a normal, like, rational person. And the case that I would make is that I don't care if it's a kid or not. Like, these are Palestinians in Palestine. Whether it's a grandmother or a middle-aged dude or a kid, you have no right to be manhandling them and oppressing them and treating them like subhuman and illegally occupying their land. I don't care what age they are or what sex they are. I don't care. This is irrelevant. You are illegally occupying them. You have no right to be there. And you know what's on that note, I'm heartbroken for Iyad Hala because, as I said, he had autism. He was killed end of May 2020, and like you don't hear anything about that anymore, even in Israeli media, right? I think Haaretz reported a bit on it. To be fair, that was a good piece, but they've gone quiet, and it seems like the guy who killed him, he's not going to actually face charges. And he's not the first. He's not the first guy with autism to be killed by the Israelis, right? So I did a whole segment about that, about these heartbreaking atrocities where they've just been killing, people with disabilities or who have, autism, or perhaps, they have mental illness. They've just been killing disabled Palestinian men like they're worth nothing. It's horrific. So I'm not surprised that they also go after children who are equally vulnerable and defenseless. I mean, what are you teaching these kids? Like, what is that child going to remember from this experience?